Hello and welcome to the geometry practice work sample walkthrough, if you will. In this video, we're going to look at what a geometry work sample may look like and how we're going to set it up and solve it. Okay. So in this one, the title is Triangle Translation. It says graph and connect the following points in order to make a triangle. A at -3, -3, B at -1, 0, and C at -1, -2. It then says to translate the triangle 4 units right and 6 units up. Draw and label the coordinates of your new triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. Okay, so let's look at some basic strategies that we might use for this problem. First off, what we're going to do for the strategy is we want to graph the first triangle. Okay, we want to graph that triangle and maybe briefly talk about how we graph that, but it can be assumed that you know how to graph at this point, because that's more of an algebra skill than a geometry skill. The triangle part makes it a geometry skill, as well as translating is a geometry skill. So graphing, we can assume we can do that. And then you have, as is talked about in the web page there, you have a couple ways to translate. So for us translating, we're either going to physically move the points, physical movement, where you're taking a point and moving it 4 units right, 6 units up, or you have the coordinate manipulation. Okay, coordinate manipulation, oops, sorry, you can't see that. Coordinate manipulation is where you're either adding or subtracting from the coordinates based on where you're moving it. And for that, if you're going to move a point left or right, okay, if you're going to go left or right, that would be an x coordinate move, okay, and left being negative, right being positive. If you're going to move up or down, that would be the y coordinate. And it's very important that you know that, because that can help you out and give you maybe another way to do the problem. Obviously, if you have 2 ways to do it and you come up with the same answer, that's a real good deal. Let's go ahead and look at the completed work sample and how I finished that myself. So this again can be found right on the website. And sorry, it's a little bit tough to see because of the, well, that makes it better. I don't know, pencil never shows up well with that light on. So let's go ahead and look at this step by step. So it says first I need to graph the original triangle, and I give you the points A, B, and C. And I've graphed those points over here, A, B, and C. Obviously it says that you need to do them in order to make that figure, and with a triangle it doesn't really matter because you wouldn't have any way to, draw one point to the wrong point. Okay, they just all get connected. So it says to translate this triangle, I will move each point 4 units to the right and 6 units up. So this is the physical movement. So I'm moving that point A 4 units to the right and 6 units up to be right there. Moving B 4 units right and 6 units up to give me that B prime up there, and C goes 4 units right and 6 units up. I was trying to show sort of with an arced line that I'm actually going 6 units up, and kind of forgot that you can't really see the horizontal movement that well. Okay, but that's okay. Just showing that actually is more than needs to be done. You could almost literally just draw this triangle and maybe make one big arrow to the right and one big arrow up, showing 4 and 6 going those 2 directions. Okay. And if you wanted to also, I've seen people do it one step at a time where they draw another triangle over here that happens 4 units to the right, and then their last triangle up here being 6 units up. You could do that as well. Excuse me. But no matter what, your ending triangle has to be labeled the way the problem asked you to do with the A prime, B prime, C prime. I've seen people mess up by drawing their second triangle over here and calling that A prime, B prime, C prime, and then this one becomes A double prime, B double prime, and C double prime. That's not really correct. I take points away for that because that's not what you're being asked to do. You're being asked that your new triangle is A prime, B prime, C prime. So make sure that that's what your new triangle or ending triangle ends up being. Okay. So if you physically move those points, you can graph those 3 points, draw the triangle, and then find out what those points are called. So this new A prime is 1, 3. Okay, so I have that there. The new B is 3, 6. Got that there, and C is 3, 4, and that's there. Okay, and that works out just fine. That's your answer. That could be the first run through. And notice that there's not a lot of wording. The arrows definitely help. And I'm not going to say that I'd go so far as to give 6s across the board for this, but it's still passing. And that's what we're worried about with the work sample. So let's go ahead and look at the reflection, what I did for that. A big part of the reflection, I always say, turn the paper over and do the problem again. That can work. You could do that same thing on your reflection, but notice here I say another method of translating points is to adjust the coordinates algebraically, meaning add or subtract numbers from them. And I talk about to move each point 4 units right and 6 units up, I need to add 4 to each x coordinate and add 6 to each y coordinate. And then I give a little table that shows the original, and then I'm going to work out adding 4 and adding 6 and what that does to my points. Okay? And make sure that in your reflection, since the problem asked you to graph, that you graph in your reflection, even though I didn't have another piece of graph paper. You can always get one though when you're working on a work sample. Okay, and that's important that you actually do that. Get that graph, either make your own or get a piece of graph paper and show that graph again. Okay, but that would be definitely a passing work sample and gets us to the next stage. Let's talk about where some people end up screwing up. And it's very important that you understand how to do it wrong in order to do it right, in my eyes. Okay. So one thing that people mess up on is, they maybe just graph the first triangle. You kind of need to say that you're graphing it. All right, that's important. Talk about what you're going to do this is an important part in sort of the representing and solving is talking about what you're doing, not just doing it. So how you translate. Okay, how you translate, what method are you going to use? You definitely want to have that in there somewhere. And then the last part that I would always say is your answer. Make sure that it's A prime, B prime, C prime. Okay, not C double prime. A prime, B prime, C prime is very important. Okay, because that's what the question asked you for. In the reflection, a lot of people, in this one for some reason more than any others, just say, well, I moved all the points. They say that they're looking up here and, well, see, I just redrew this line and this line, and it ended up at the same spot. That's not okay. All right, we can't do that. We have to somehow do the problem again and paying attention to, the same parts. Okay, and I always think of the reflection as being sort of a shortened version of the problem itself, making sure that you hit the highlights rather than every gory detail. So this, I would say, is an important part, saying what I'm doing again. how I'm going to move, how I'm going to translate that triangle. And when you're doing it the coordinate manipulation way, you definitely want to show what you have to do to each coordinate, and doing it throughout here is very important also. Okay, showing that I'm going the x coordinate -3 plus 4, the y coordinate -3 plus 6, and what that gives me. Okay, I'm not asking for you to go, okay, so -3 plus 4, that's like going 4 minus 3, and it's going to be 1. Okay, I wouldn't necessarily go that in depth. Remember that we can assume basic algebra skills are present in anybody reading this. Okay, so that's kind of the important stuff that I look at. And once you get this done, you'll be that much closer to work sample completion. So I wish you luck, and make sure you get that stuff done, and we'll see you out there.